The futility was off the charts.
Just pathetic.
Oh, they're killing me, Whitey. They're killing me.
And then all of a sudden, boy, they just caught fire.
Wow, what a difference a year makes.
Their picture is next to the word turnaround in the NFL dictionary.
It isn't that much of a stretch to think you can go from really bad to really good pretty quick.
Through NFL history, many teams have gone from an ugly duckling
Get it away from me!
Pass the vomit bag.
to Cinderella.
Never know what is going to turn a franchise around.
He's intercepted.
The catalyst could be a player,
He really was the linchpin that helped turn this team around.
a coach,
What the hell's going on out here?
or new management. But every team on our list has one thing in common: a terrible season
Just pathetic.
followed by a triumphant one.
49ers have won it.
This is our list of the 10 greatest single-season team turnarounds in NFL history.
We did something no one thought we were going to do.
Nobody gave him a shot.
Hey, you got to give me the number.
We start our countdown
Give me a number.
with the original worst to first.
Who is it?
The number 10 team turnaround of all time. The 79 Bucks.
In 1979, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went from worst to first.
That was the original worst to first story. I think the 79 Bucks, if they didn't trademark that title, they should have.
What made Tampa's turnaround remarkable was not the heights to which they rose, but the depths from which they came.
This is historic. They were 0-26.
The futility was off the charts.
Well, we didn't block him, but we made up for it by not tackling.
The worst team ever, bar none, in NFL history.
Keep your chin up. We'll be all right.
Bucko Bruce was an embarrassment as well. Everybody looked longingly at the Raiders helmet.
And the embarrassment extended from sight to sound.
Hey, hey, Tampa Bay.
The Bucks gonna shine.
The fans would start singing it. It's the worst song ever. I guess fitting for a franchise whose logo was a pirate winking at people.
They always say the hardest thing to do is to turn around a losing mentality. Nobody lost more than the Tampa Bay Bucks did.
With 5-11 and 78 being the high water mark, there was no expectation in 1979.
We can't stop a pass or a run. Otherwise, we're in great shape.
1979, I think everything kind of turned around for us.
You know, with 5 wins in a row, right from the start.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
There were the Bucks, unbeaten, untied, and unbelievable.
Coach McKay, you guys.
They were a really, really good defensive football team.
He fumbled the football.
No one could block Leroy Selman.
In 79, the Bucks defense was ranked number 1 in the league.
Pick off. Buccaneers. Tampa Bay looks like they've got it.
But there was an offensive player that suddenly started to come into his own, and his name was Doug Williams. Now those defensive players had someone on the other side of the ball who they knew could launch one of those rockets of his.
Looking long. It is caught. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
And along with that quarterback, they had Ricky Bell. I think Ricky Bell is kind of forgotten.
Atta baby, Ricky, that's what we need.
Doug Williams was a very young quarterback. Ricky Bell was really pretty much their whole offense that year.
But 3 late-season losses nearly throttled our number 10 turnaround team.
Let's just relax, fellas. We're not doing a big job anyhow.
One of the players tagged his team as the Chokineers.
We've now proven we can't play on the road or in front of our own crowd.
It came down to the last game at home that we played in a monsoon.
The defense kept the Bucks' playoff dream afloat.
Kansas City could be playing now, and they still wouldn't score against that Buck defense.
We ended up winning that game 3-0.
The Buccaneers are the NFC Central Division champions.
That was the quickest that any expansion team had been to the playoffs.
Tampa then achieved another first.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
In a seminal moment in Tampa sports, the first playoff victory.
What we should do is go down and get their champagne. But we'll drink our beer.
Coming up, which colorful coach brought accountability to a bad team?
You know, there are people missing meetings, people not knowing their assignments on the football field.
I don't know what he's saying.
But everybody wanted to get the paycheck on Monday.
An airline has planes.
Head coach hirings have often kick-started some of the league's biggest turnarounds.
I'll be happy to answer any questions there.
In 1983, John Robinson had all the answers as he revived the Rams with a 7-win swing. The Golden State saw another team cash in with a new coach twice. The 1992 Chargers bolted from cellar dwellers to division champs under Bobby Ross.
The ball's back! The ball is back!
Lightning struck again in 2004 when Marty Ball reversed a 4-12 record to a 12-4 rebirth.
Let's just realize what we have done.
But the tycoon of NFL turnarounds is the tuna.
Hey, Phil, I'll run the game. Come on.
Bill Parcells has perked up plenty of teams, but it was his second trip to the Big Apple that takes the cake in our countdown.
The number 19 turnaround of all time, the 97 Jets.
I remember going to warm-ups and thinking, I wonder how much we're going to lose by today.
Can they just call this game? I don't mean to sound funny, just call this game.
It was a disaster. I mean, it was just a disaster unfolding. And each and every year that I was here, it got worse.
The Jets will finish 1-15, the worst record in the history of the franchise.
1-15. That's nearly impossible to do with any sort of NFL talent.
Is there a mercy rule in football? There should be.
That team was 1-15 for a variety of reasons. Bad luck, injuries, O'Donnell getting banged around, Rich Kotite.
Give me weak right.
Push the button. Push the button. It's almost like you'd like to forget the season and think about 97.
The Jets went fishing for help in 1997 and landed the big tuna of turnarounds.
If you're committed to trying to win, then you're going to like it. You know, if you're just picking up paychecks, you're not going to like it.
Bill Parcells has been a master at these turnaround jobs.
He was no kid off the corner. He had been up in New England. He had won Super Bowls with the Giants.
So the excitement of Parcells was that the Jets, finally they were going to bring a guy in here who was going to straighten everything out.
Everybody up.
There's an old saying, you play like you practice. Okay, you got to know that. You got to know. If an old man knows it, why don't you know it?
And he said, whatever I do, you might not be the most talented team, but you will be the smartest team on the field.
You can't get any worse than that. You can't do it any worse.
What came out of Bill Parcells' mouth to the players
You're lucky. You're just lucky.
is what they heard and what they stood with.
Don't get discouraged. It's about competition here, son.
Parcells had restored the competitive spirit in our number 9 turnaround team.
What a way to open the season.
But building confidence and winning games didn't come easy.
Let's go, Jets. Let's go.
On the brink of a 1-3 start, one play turned the fate of the franchise.
It's looked away and picked up. Ray Nickens. He will go the distance. Touchdown, Jets. What a turn of events.
They won some good games with players, by the way, that weren't the greatest players in the world.
Foley throws to the end zone. Touchdown, Dedrick Ward.
Jeff Graham is having a big day for the Jets.
Terrell's got an opening. Explodes into the end zone. Touchdown, Jets.
That's Bill Parcells' trademark.
There you go.
We will have a chance to win.
And when they did, in dramatic fashion.
This is for the win. And it is good.
And against playoff-bound teams.
Johnson, nothing but daylight. He's gone. Touchdown.
Parcells and his 9-7 Jets failed to make the playoffs, but the instant upgrade of our number 9 team was enough to please most New York fans.
Wow, what a difference a year makes.
You're talking about a franchise that was at the bottom of the pit in the NFL, and he turned it around.
The number 8 team turnaround of all time, the 75 Colts.
When you speak of the Baltimore Colts, you speak of tradition, of promises fulfilled.
The Baltimore Colts of the 50s, 60s, and early 70s were one of the more stable franchises in sports.
And the Baltimore Colts have won the Super Bowl.
And they went from being Super Bowl champions 1970-71, being a team that played in the championship game the following year.
This year, there was no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
To a team that just basically fell off a cliff the year after that.
The Colts' cliff dive was compounded by an ownership shakeup as new president Bob Irsay implemented radical change to a rock-solid franchise.
Determined to make his venture a long-term success, Irsay hired the dynamic Joe Thomas as general manager.
Joe decided that he had to gut the team.
He purged almost 28 Colts.
He traded everybody, including Johnny Unitas and Tom Maddie and John Mackey.
Those gentlemen, after what they've done, what do you think Joe was looked at here?
Some people say that Nixon's Saturday Night Massacre was nothing compared to Joe Thomas's Baltimore Massacre when you let Johnny Unitas and other old legendary heroes go.
Joe was the reason that the team was torn apart, but was also the reason that the team was rebuilt so quickly.
Thomas's retooling of the Colts made them younger, but not better.
1974 was a tough character-testing season for the team.
After finishing the 1974 season with a league-worst 2-12 record, Thomas went searching for a new coach.
The name that came up most often was Ted Marchibroda from the Washington Redskins. I took the job in Baltimore for...
Marchibroda knew one thing: football and how to win.
We win the opener against the Bears, lose 4 straight. And the 6th game was against Buffalo, and I think the score was 21-0 in the first quarter.
Marchibroda challenged every one of us. He looked at Burt Jones and said, "Burt, we're going to win this football game."
The guidance of Ted Marchibroda and the gutsy personnel decisions of Joe Thomas finally clicked for the Colts in a breakout 42-35 comeback win.
Things like that usually are what turn these things around.
When we finally realized that we could win football games, the sky was the limit.
The comeback Colts rattled off 9 straight wins to finish their turnaround season.
The Jones-to-Carr connection has become one of football's deadliest.
I mean, they became the hottest team in football over the second half of the year, and a lot of fun to watch.
A dramatic overtime win against Miami and a division-clinching defeat of New England capped off a magical season known in Baltimore as the Miracle on 33rd Street.
The most overwhelming kind of a turnaround in the history of the National Football League.
From 2-12 to 10-4, an 8-game turnaround earns the 75 Colts the number 8 spot on our list.
The miracle was the fact that you took a team that was down and out and horrible and turned them into a division champion. It was a miracle.
Coming up, what team energized both its franchise and its city?
Just listen to this crowd.
Well, keep rolling. Go get your tickets.
Sometimes a turnaround ends right where it began. In 1989, Don Makowski and the Packers provided fans with a magical season.
Touchdown to Sterling Sharp.
But had no potions left the following fall.
Bounces off one man. Touchdown.
Atlanta's Dirty Birds took their franchise to new heights.
The Falcons are going to the Super Bowl.
Only to crash back to earth in 1999. The Saints went from 3-13 to 10-6 in 2000.
And the Saints have moved into the history books.
But that wasn't New Orleans' most impressive turnaround.
The number 17 turnaround of all time, the 2006 Saints.
I just think the 2006 Saints turnaround was almost unfathomable.
Their picture is next to the word turnaround in the NFL dictionary.
It was a story that transcended football.
What a moment! Just listen to this crowd.
And after Katrina, they did save football in New Orleans.
You're talking about a community that was so devastated.
The tragedy was one thing, and then the rumors that they might leave.
The city of San Antonio is the site of 3 football games.
There was almost a backlash from the fans, so when they did play these home games in Baton Rouge, they had very sparse crowds. The owner was getting booed. They spent the last month of the season practicing at a high school field and finished that season 3-13.
As the city rebuilt in 2006, our number 7 team started its own rebirth.
This is an exciting day for me and my family.
They hired Sean Payton, and you know he had studied under Bill Parcells.
We need to put a drive together now.
The concerns I had centered around a lot of the problems that existed even prior to Katrina. You know, this is an organization that hadn't won in 40 years.
And I just, when I
It sucked. It stunk. That's as simple as I can tell you.
All of that appeared to change when 2 stars landed in New Orleans.
All right, let's do this.
But few thought their acquisitions would add up to wins.
Going in, I thought if they could win 5 or 6 games, they'd be doing a good job.
Our number 7 team was already flying high at 2-0 when they reopened the Superdome in Week 3.
68,000 fans, 68,000 emotions.
It was Monday Night Football, prime time. I mean, it was like a Super Bowl.
It was unbelievable. The first big play was Steve Gleason blocks a punt.
It is going to be covered by the Saints for a touchdown! Oh, baby!
It's the loudest the Superdome has ever been by far.
And then they kept winning.
Can anybody catch him?
And winning.
Touchdown!
And winning.
Yeah, he's in!
They were just suddenly no fluke.
When they played the Dallas Cowboys,
Intercepted!
that was the Saints at the height of their powers.
He's the fastest guy in the field!
That was the game where you realized, geez, maybe they go to the Super Bowl. They ended up, winding up with the number 2 seed in the NFC.
New Orleans Saints had never been to an NFC championship game. We're going to one.
And fell 1 game short.
There was no Super Bowl for our number 7 team, but going from 3-13 to 10-6 was nothing short of miraculous.
At the beginning of the year, people were just hoping that the Saints were going to stay in New Orleans. And the idea of staying in New Orleans and winning, I don't think that really had crossed anyone's mind.
This is a special moment in a special city.
That was just so fitting that the Saints were able to get off the mat themselves at the same time that their city needed to.
The number 16 turnaround of all time, the 70 Dolphins.
Starting from scratch, the Dolphins put together a roster that many experts rate as strong in personnel as any expansion team ever.
The Miami Dolphins were the first major league team in the state of Florida, period. This silly new Howard Johnson colored team.
Are you the guys with a fish on your helmet? And are you the ones with a flipper in the end zone?
The expansion Dolphins didn't exactly make a big splash in Miami.
The Dolphins lose their opener, but serve notice they'll not be a pushover for any team.
With only 15 wins in 4 seasons, fans weren't falling in love with Florida football.
When the Dolphins weren't winning, nobody really showed up.
There's so many tickets, everyone's trying to sell them. I'll just give them away.
In their early years, the Dolphins had typical expansion pains. Then in 1970, a change took place.
When Coach Shula first arrived,
Come back toward the ball.
we found out real quick that there was going to be a change in the culture.
Back in a huddle. Let's go.
First thing I told him was that I was about as subtle as a punch in the mouth.
Let's go. Get something out of the drill. Everything we do is for a reason.
It was boot camp Shula, and it was tough, but that started the ball rolling.
This is the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, home of the Dolphins, one of the most improved teams in football.
By busting out 4 wins in their first 5 games, the 1970 Dolphins surpassed their 1969 win total. But an ensuing 3-game skid taught our number 6 turnaround team a valuable lesson about their new coach.
He was just a miserable SOB when you lost.
I didn't know how to finesse things. What I said was what I meant.
I don't think that anything good ever comes out of losing.
The one thing that Coach Shula would not allow would be to beat yourself, because that's what losers do.
Don Shula preached discipline, and the Dolphins delivered.
We were the least penalized team in the National Football League. We didn't make a lot of mental errors. And then we had some big plays to help win the ball games.
Reese going deep for Warfield. He got it. Touchdown, Dolphins. Touchdown, Larry Hogger.
We finished strong. very strong.
Don Shula's Dolphins are swimming with the current, riding the crest of a wave that may carry them across the Gulf of Mexico.
3-10-1 to 10-4 was just a great turnaround.
When he started instantly winning in Miami, this was a football town, and it has been forever.
I don't think Miami before or since has ever been together as it was when the Miami Dolphins came on the scene big in 1970.
Coming up, history repeats itself.
He knows the blueprint. He's been there.
In the Magic City.
He brings in a new guy, he cleans house.
And next thing you know, this team is surprising a lot of people.
We pity the fool who missed our recap of the top 10 team turnarounds of all time.
Number 10, the Buck stops in Tampa in 1979.
Finally, not the butt of jokes.
Number 9, the 97 Jets soar with Bill Parcells.
We're doing a little better, but it's hard.
Number 8, the comeback Colts pull off a miracle in 1975.
Those are wonderful moments, and we have never had that before.
Number 7, the 06 Saints come marching back.
It was a story that transcended football.
Number 6, the Donald redevelops the 70 Dolphins.
I had to just instill in them, our determination to compete and to win.
The number 5 team turnaround of all time, the 2008 Dolphins.
Untalented, bad, poorly coached, miserable, in complete disarray, dumb football, and utter embarrassment to the league and to the Miami Dolphins.
Shameful. You gotta be kidding. Embarrassing.
In 2007, the Dolphins were NFL pushovers.
Drops the football, picked out of midair, touchdown Bills.
As the team lost games, fans lost hope.
I don't want them going 0-16, so I'm just like, just win one week and then lose the rest because I wanted the coaching staff out.
Over the middle, Camarillo's got it.
But for that, the Dolphins would be the worst team in the history of professional football.
They went 1-15. I brought Bill Parcells to the Dolphins, so I'm happy. You suck it up for 1 year.
Getting Bill Parcells is when it turned. I'm going to have a plan.
With Bill Parcells running the franchise, the Dolphins got a new head coach in Tony Sperano.
Buckle them chin straps, prima donnas! Let's go! Put the thumb on them today!
Replaced half the roster, including veterans Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor.
Even though those two guys are winners, they still had that stink on them.
And landed a jet.
The football gods smiled on the Dolphins when the Jets let Chad Pennington drop into our lap. Favre goes to New York.
It's time for me to move forward.
Pennington comes to Miami.
Hey, big man.
And all of a sudden, the Dolphins had instant credibility.
Yeah, there's probably not 10 quarterbacks in the league that are better than him.
I would fight.
And what has Chad Pennington meant to the Miami Dolphins? Brett Favre was the best thing to ever happen to Miami.
Even with their new QB, it took a wild new offense to avoid another catastrophic season.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
Miami had been 1-15 and then started the season 0-2.
He's going to go the distance. The Dolphins secondary gets burned again.
So they were like as down as you can get.
And Sperano basically says, it's time to pull out the Wildcat.
Going to snap this back to Ronnie Brown. Get it to Ricky Nolan. Oh, yeah.
It was an act of desperation.
Once again, direct snap to Ronnie Brown.
But sometimes, the mother of invention is necessity.
Throws to the right. Yes! Well done. That's where it's going to be. Whatever it takes.
No one had any idea that that was coming. We're looking at each other like, what are we seeing right now? What is this? No one knew the name of it.
Wildcat.
Wildcat, that's our playbook now. And it really was what turned around the Dolphins season.
Wildcat offense again. Oh, my God. It's going to be a touchdown Dolphins.
Pennington capped off our number 5 team turnaround by beating his old team to clinch the AFC East.
Anybody out there think the Dolphins were going to win 11 games? Why not us? Why not us, right? This ball's going to go right here into this quarterback.
The number 4 team turnaround of all time, the 81 49ers.
O.J. Simpson. How are you?
In 1978, Joe Thomas traded for O.J. Simpson in an effort to revive San Francisco's football fortune.
Just pathetic.
Instead, his plan left the Niners with the label worse than expansion.
The Niners were on the canvas. They were barely getting up to their knees at that point.
Wow.
Jeez.
A team that just was totally clueless and directionless. Just a god-awful 49er team.
In 1979, the Niners hired Bill Walsh, hoping to find coaching gold.
They throw the term around genius loosely. I think it was appropriate with Bill because when it came down to football, he was unlike anyone I'd seen.
Tell Pretty to split about 6 or 7 yards on this thing and then get his up that field, and you watch that safety, okay?
He took an offensive approach that was not in vogue.
I put the play in, Paul.
But he had a certain conviction in what he believed.
I put the thing in upstairs.
Bill Walsh had instilled this kind of confidence in his team.
His greatness showed up since he's probably first put on a male supporter.
The entire organization started to turn around.
But with just 6 wins in 1980, the Niners were still a far cry from Super Bowl contention.
In 81, if the Niners had finished with a 500 record that year, people would have been ecstatic.
In Week 6 of 1981, our number 4 team announced its arrival by avenging an earlier embarrassment.
The year before, in 80, we had gone down to Dallas and just gotten stunned.
But these were not the same Niners.
They got him. Touchdown.
Drubbing Dallas 45-14.
It's caught by Clark. He'll go all the way.
We came out of that game knowing that this could be a pretty special thing we had going.
With the win, San Francisco was off to the races.
Throws his pass. It's caught by Clark at the 20. He's going for a touchdown.
I think there was a hope that they were going to be better. Certainly not what they accomplished in 81.
Montana throwing to Solomon. He got it. Touchdown, San Francisco.
The Niners finished 13-3, but were just starting to catch the nation's attention.
When I think of the 81 49ers, the snapshot that always comes to mind is the championship game against the Cowboys.
And then, of course, the play, the catch.
You don't get what you want. You just simply throw the ball away. Not there, way you go. You're ready to go to the right, got it.
So fasten your seatbelts now. We've got turbulence and plenty of it here at Candlestick Park now.
We didn't know Joe Montana was going to become the most clutch quarterback in the history of the game. It was like slaying the dragon.
Looking to throw, and he throws into the end zone.
It was so unbelievable. The Cowboys were America's team at the height of America's team, you know, not like now. It was easily the greatest moment in 49er history, better than the Super Bowl.
Going from 6-10 to Super Bowl champs secures 4th place on our countdown for the 81 Niners.
49ers have won it.
Considering the wilderness that the Niners were in, that should be number 1, because that came out of nowhere.
We had done something that no one else had ever done.
I don't think that anything could top this. Anything in my life.
Coming up, our number 3 team turned disaster into a dynasty.
Well, I'm interested to find out what the two that beat it were.
A single sensational player can sometimes vault a team from cast-off to contender. In 1980, Billy Sims helped the Lions roar to their first winning record in 8 years.
Touchdown! Unbelievable.
Eric Dickerson carried the Colts from 3-13 to playoff bound in 1987.
AFC East champion.
In 1983, John Elway led the way to more victories for the Broncos. But it was a far less heralded quarterback who propelled our number 3 team to the top of the NFL.
The number 3 team turnaround of all time, the 2001 Patriots.
The mind boggles when you stop and think of how the NFL world might be different if Drew Bledsoe does not get hurt.
And here he comes, and every Patriot fan had to be thinking, oh my God, this is the guy?
I was not optimistic.
For years, there was no reason for any optimism in New England.
Franchise was in complete tatters. It was a complete disaster.
In 2000, our number 3 turnaround team hired Bill Belichick, hoping to escape mediocrity.
It's my honor and pleasure to introduce Bill Belichick.
people weren't interested in Belichick. He was a retread. I remember I got a call. I was covering the Raiders, and somebody said, well, you better not get Belichick, because that's the worst coach in the league.
Belichick did little to silence skeptics with a 5-11 finish in 2000.
In 2001, they start the year 0-2. Drew Bledsoe gets knocked out of the game against the Jets.
The next thing we know, he's going to be out for a long time.
You see pictures of Tom Brady at the Combine, and here comes a guy out of Michigan who couldn't even beat out Drew Henson.
I can't stand it. Run it again, Brady.
And there were people that said after that, well, this season certainly lost.
I remember going on the radio, and they said, what does Bill Belichick have to do to save his job? Because when they were 0-2, they were the worst team in football, bar none. Bar none.
Patriots fans perked up when the former Wolverine rallied New England to an overtime win against the Chargers.
Got a man open, touchdown! How about that one?
Then he said, wow, you might be on to something here.
You know, a lot of times in a horse race at that quarter pole, the best horse ends up making a move.
Goes to the near side, picked off Tylaw. Touchdown!
For a team to have the kind of turnaround that the Patriots had in 2001, not just one thing has to happen.
Tom Brady, fourth.
A lot of things have to happen.
They did it with guys that were not household names.
Touchdown, Mark Edwards. Kevin Cole. Antoine Smith from 32 yards out.
The sum of the parts is better than the whole.
The way they ended that season was so tremendous.
Our number 3 team finished 11-5, but their good fortune was far from finished.
Oakland was going to be the toughest team for them to deal with.
Not today!
The Raiders outplayed them for much of that game.
It all came down to the top. The direct snap to Brady. Looks to the left, loses the football.
The Raiders have the ball!
How was that not a fumble?
It is
All right! Patriots retain the ball.
Disbelief, and then the feeling of, who's going to stop us now?
Kick is up.
And in Super Bowl 36, the quarterback who turned around the season for our number 3 team turned into a superstar.
I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that Brady was going to put them in a position to win the game.
Fires down the field, caught.
And the rest really is history.
Kick is on the way, and it is good. It's good. It's good.
We had been nothing.
We did it.
And now we're the world champions.
When we say unsung, nobody was singing about these guys before that season came along.
The 2001 season really launched the Patriots dynasty.
Coming up, a franchise on the slide finally flips the switch.
It was like the light went on.
I got you, baby.
I got you. That was the starting point for what they've really accomplished over the last 7 or 8 years.
Next year we'll be in the Super Bowl.
For some turnaround teams, turning the corner took too long to qualify for our list. In 1989, the Dallas Cowboys could only pony up 1 win.
Our guys are young, but they're growing up in a hurry.
2 years later, America's team made a triumphant return to the playoffs.
How do you turn it around like that?
And by 1992, the Dallas dynasty was fully developed.
How about them Cowboys?
Chicago got some much-needed love in 2004, but a winning record did not blossom for the Bears.
Disappointment reigns at Soldier Field.
But the Bears rebounded and 2 seasons later scored a berth in the Super Bowl.
Bear fans, your dream is reality. Begin the migration to Miami.
Lovey's Bears lost their bite in the big game, while the team that took home the trophy put the finishing touches on a turnaround that began 8 years earlier.
The number 2 team turnaround of all time, the 99 Colts.
The 97 Colts 3-13 campaign marked 20 straight seasons the club fell below the 10-win mark.
The Colts keep shooting themselves in the feet and the arms and the legs and close to the head.
The Indianapolis Colts select quarterback Peyton Manning.
I knew the history, and I knew this organization did not have a
great history of winning. I'm coming in very humble, last on the depth chart, and I'm just ready to go to work.
This was a team that was basically hitched their wagon to Peyton Manning and said, from day one, you're our guy.
Keep our feet here. Come underneath this guy, drag.
One of the great things about that year was that Peyton started every game.
Weak right, 44 on hard count. Hard count. The more you can be out there on the field, making the audibles, the better off you're going to be if you're out there facing the live bullets.
The highly touted rookie did little to improve the Colts' record as our number 2 turnaround team toiled to yet another 3-13 season.
Man, he got hit in that first year sometimes, and you thought, boy, is he ever going to get up?
They knew it was going to be rough, and the team resigned themselves to a difficult 1998 season.
Put the nail on it. 1998, that bad season.
How do you keep your team positive during bad times?
That's kind of our goal this year, but we have a real tough schedule, and it's going to be tough. Don't tell anybody that, though. Just keep that between you and me.
Nice try, Peyton, but the Colts' struggles were no secret. And when Indy waved bye-bye to their Pro Bowl running back, things weren't getting any better.
When they trade Marshall Faulk, you're thinking, how in the world are you going to replace Marshall Faulk?
Everybody figured, okay, the Colts will take Ricky Williams.
The Indianapolis Colts select Edgerrin James, running back, University of Miami.
That's the first time I'd even looked up the name.
People didn't know a lot about the kid, but he was a great fit for this offense.
Fires it down the sideline, head for Edgerrin. He's got it! Down to the 10, down to the 5, touchdown! Edgerrin James!
He had the size to carry it every down. He had the hands. He had everything it took to be the perfect back in that offense.
The game that got us started was a game in New York that,
throws to Marvin. Oh, did he get it?
by all rights, we should have lost.
After a 2-2 start, the 99 season was in danger of slipping away from the Colts until one play changed everything.
Looks for Keyshawn, and it's intercepted. Jeff Burrows on the return down the right sideline.
We go down, get the winning points.
The Colts win! Wow! The Colts have won it!
And it started us on a roll.
It was like the light went on. Then they catch fire and they win 10 or 11 games in a row.
Manning drops back by action. He's got Marvin wide open. He's got it. Touchdown!
The Colts went from worst to first in the AFC East, capturing their first division title in over a decade.
To win 11 games in a row, that was what this team needed. I mean, they really did.
The Colts' reversal from 3-13 to 13-3 set an NFL record. While owning the title as football's biggest turnaround didn't earn Indy our top spot, it did have its benefits.
The 10-game turnaround did so much for this team that it helped the future of the Colts.
And the champions of the football world are the Indianapolis Colts.
And it took us longer than we wanted to, but the goal was to finish the turnaround.
Coming up, a story so improbable, it had to be number one.
Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
I don't think anyone would have dared to have written that script because it would have been rejected by every director in Hollywood.
We're ready to reveal our top team turnaround, but first, let's recap our list.
Number 10. Tampa delivers the original worst-to-first turnaround in 1979. Number 9.
Good job, guys.
The Tuna transforms Gang Green in 97. Number 8. The 1975 Miracle Colts.
The most overwhelming kind of a turnaround in the history of the National Football League.
Number 7. The 06 Saints buoy a Bayou Revival.
New Orleans Saints have never been to an NFC Championship game. We're going to one.
Number 6. Shula shows the Dolphins how to win. Number 5. Parcells works his magic again in the Magic City.
The Dolphins are the AFC champions.
Number 4. The 81 Niners finally strike gold.
We had done something that no one else had ever done.
Number 3. The 2001 Patriots turned disaster into a dynasty. Number 2. Peyton makes Indy a winning place.
Peyton Manning rises above all in terms of what turned that franchise around.
The #1 team turnaround of all time, the '99 Rams.
Well, how do you not choose the team that won the Super Bowl?
Never happened again. 4-12 the Super Bowl. That has to be #1, right?
The super season ends with a Super Bowl victory for the Rams.
As awful as the Rams were, turning it around in 1 year and finishing the deal, it was like a miracle it hit this town.
That miracle was also the most improbable turnaround in NFL history. As paper confetti rained down on the newly crowned Rams, it was hard to recall that paper bags were once a fashion statement in St. Louis.
Guys like call me at the gas station and say like, "Hey, Roland," I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Aren't you the starting tight end for the Rams?" I'm like, "Yeah." They like, "You guys suck."
We had lost so much that we had accepted it. I can't tell you how many windshields I cracked. My own windshields. Punching them after games.
God, he doesn't know how to run it.
Frustration also fumed with Dick Vermeil, who was in danger of seeing his coaching job vanish.
The Rams had talked about making a coaching change if things didn't turn around.
They had a meeting and said, "You've got to change some things." And he realized he did.
Just keep attacking him, Michael.
We needed a running back, and we just kind of felt like if we get a quarterback to manage the game, we could get a little momentum going.
We got a guy named Trent Green. Directly behind him was this little guy named Marshall Faulk. Torrey Holt, we just drafted him. We had Isaac Bruce, and we had Oz Hakeem. We had talent everywhere.
It was a total change.
Another day at the office.
Yeah.
Now we recognize we got a football team.
Oh, my goodness. We got Trent Green down. We've got Trent Green down in the middle of the field.
When Trent went down, it's like, we're back to square one.
Kurt Warner checks in. Certainly not the kind of experience that Green brought to this offense.
No one knew his story at all.
A guy who came out of nowhere.
Worked at the grocery store a couple years before and all that.
The expectations were low.
I said, "Look, Kurt, you have to understand this. We believe in you. We got your back. You just go play like you know you can." Not only was I just managing the game, but I was able to actually go in and excel. Everybody realized that the gem in the rough had come home to roost.
St. Louis sailed to a 9-win turnaround in '99.
They won't catch him. Touchdown, Rams!
Then a revived Rams roster got ready for a playoff run.
These players felt so good about themselves and what they're capable of doing, they couldn't wait to get to the playoffs.
The Rams opened their postseason in signature St. Louis style.
One play, one score, and they lead it. Bring on the Bucks. Warner back to throw. Rainbows the far sideline. And this touchdown Rams! Yes! The St. Louis Rams are Super Bowl bound.
Then you get to the Super Bowl and you're sitting there and you're thinking, are the St. Louis Rams in the Super Bowl?
A bomb to Isaac Bruce gave St. Louis a late lead.
Makes a move to the 30, and they won't catch him today.
Then it was up to the defense to top off the turnaround.
Last play of the game.
Throws right side for Dyson. Dodge for the end zone.
To go through that season where we were 4-12 and we struggled and there were so many complaints, and to turn that persona around was really exciting.
It went from they suck to they're pretty good to they're great to they're the greatest show on turf.
It was no longer boos, it was cheers. It was a complete turnaround.
So what have we learned from our list?
You have caused me some stress.
For one thing, you never know when a turnaround is coming.
This is a football team that has stunned the football world.
But it's often very apparent when one is needed.
You better buff this crew up a little bit.
So when your team's in the tank, have patience, because somehow, some way, even the worst teams